Hello everyone, and welcome to this video. This is going to be a bit of an educational video, or like a tiny course in resonance in something that I'm very passionate about. I believe that a lot of human design readers and guides and teachers have never come across this information, and like, it's not their fault. It's just, I believe that you should guide through what you are familiar with. On the other hand, I believe that there is a lot of experts who have come across this information and who have studied it, but for some reason they don't include it in their readings. There is I honestly have never come across a resonance reading. When it comes to advanced readings, I've seen PHS readings and cross of life variables and that stuff, and also like relationship readings. I don't know if it is that people are not generally interested in it, and it can be, but I think it's just because they're not familiar with it. I want this information to spread. I want more people to know about it and to then be able to express interest in this. Because what I can't understand is how somebody who has studied resonance can go back and do chart readings in a surface kind of way. I get it, like there is foundational readings and they are absolutely great. They are absolutely necessary, but it's not about the stuff that is not said to people. It's more about stuff that is said in a wrong way. Because once you learn resonance, you can't ever look at a chart in the same way. So I've had 3 foundational readings, and I can't say if my readers were familiar with resonance studies or not, but all 3 of them wanted to go a bit further from the basics. All 3 readings tapped into the advanced themes a little bit, but in a very kind of risky way. So a basic reading that is going to involve gates, description of your gates, can be really dangerous, because by looking at the gates, an analyst will very often tell you that this is who you are, this is your definition, but they won't explain to you what it is that you kind of should not be. What are the gates that you should not identify with? And what are the ones that should be released and not resonated to? And another thing that I see very often on Facebook is people making excuses or using these gates to describe who they are, and in a sense that I can't change anything about myself. That's just how it is, because I have Venus in a gate 39. So I'm just there to provoke. I'm just there to be provocative. I can't do anything about it. Where when you take the meaning of this Venus, and when you know the fact that Venus is in charge of keeping us locked into the mundane, that Venus is where our false foundation is established in the form of standards. The standards which are then the lens through which we see the world. And when you are an aware being, this is something that you should not resonate to. So it's not just, it is how it is and I can't help it, I just have that Venus. It's not how it works. Now, the first thing I want to show you here is the arrows, the 2 arrows in the corner. And what they represent is prana, is the way in and the way out. And the way in is represented by a vertical arrow. And this is about how we take in, how our mind takes things in order to develop these three columns. How our mind takes things in order to develop foundation, in order to develop our outer authority, and in order to develop learning. The other variable, the lateral one, shows how things are being put out, how we put things out. And this is nothing that you have to think about. We can't do much about it here. This is all dependent on the correctness of the form. And we don't have control over the way we take things in. So depending on what we resonate to on the outside, we take things in. And not all of these are active at the same time, because, for example, you can have a planet in a gate in an open center. So it's not going to be always activated. Now, I want to show you how to look at the laterals. And the first one here, I put a little picture of for the keyword voice. And that is the Moon, the Mercury, and Uranus. This is a lateral that gets expressed. This is a lateral that needs and wants to get expressed. This is literally the voice. This is literally what we say. So what happens here is the Moon here gets the information out. So the Moon translates this whatever has been taken in and translates it to the nodes with its own lens, which then ultimately gets conceptualized by your Sun and Earth. Now, the second and the third lateral, the heart doesn't need to be expressed, and it does not get expressed, but it is very often revealed. The heart is like literally the feeling that we have, because any thought that we ever have is never on its own. It's always supported by a feeling, by some other thought, by specific things, specific keywords that you see here in this square. So the feeling behind the what was conceptualized can be seen in this second lateral. And the third lateral, the mind, also does not get expressed, but it is what starts this whole process. So we start with a mind, we go into having a feeling about it, and then we express it. So the mind and the heart bring this kind of depth to the voice. Now, the important thing to understand here is that there's two different paths. There is a path of the mundane, and this path includes these channels, these planets that you can see behind this cross here. So it's in the foundation column, we have one planet that is a foundation that we don't want to resonate to. That is the foundation that keeps us stuck in the mundane, and that is Venus. Venus makes us have standards, and these standards then will evoke feelings in us, right? If you think about the lateral heart, it makes perfect sense that the standards are here. For example, if we look at politics, and you are very politically opinionated person, and there is somebody wanting to talk to you, debate with you, or whatever, somebody who is from the opposing, who carries opposing political views, you probably won't even want to give them a chance. You're not going to want to listen to them. And very often we lie to ourselves, especially us who are like in this into spirituality and these kinds of things. Then we like to pretend that we are so very accepting of everyone and everything, but very often we're not. And that is where Venus plays a big role. Venus makes us see the world through our own differentiated standards. So even if we agree to be open-minded towards this person that doesn't carry the same opinions as us or beliefs as us, still there's that nagging feeling that will never allow you to agree with them because they go against your standards. And so the same thing goes for the second row when it comes to outer authority. There's only one planet that carries the true outer authority potential, and that is Mars. The other two are, again, something that is keeping us bound to the mundane world. And that is Mercury and that is Jupiter. Mercury with communication. We put such an enormous importance on communication, voicing things, where awareness does not have to be expressed verbally. It doesn't work like that. It can be sensed. It's something that the raves will know way better than we do. But yeah, we are very, very dependent on communication as species. And then we have Jupiter, which is the rules, which is kind of similar to Venus in a way, because it's these special rules and laws that we carry in us, that we see the world through. And when it comes to the learning column, there is one learning that keeps us stuck to the mundane, and that is Neptune. And Neptune brings with it misinformation. It's a bit of lies. It's a bit of, it's just the absence of truth in whatever we're learning about. So people who resonate a lot to their mundane cross, to these four planets, they can be extremely intelligent and they can deal very, very successfully with the mundane world and its problems. But they can't be aware. If you're unaware, most of your experience is going to be in this cross, in the mundane cross. When we switch over to the transcendent, to the diagonal, intelligence loses importance. This is where we clearly see that being intelligent has nothing to do with being aware. It's not at all necessary for awareness. Now, the transcendent is what we want to resonate to, is what you do resonate to once you're aware. And there we have the moon, which is the focus. We have Uranus, which is a sidetrack. We have Mars, mutation. We have Saturn, constraint. And we have Pluto, inner truth. Now, if you know anything about base, these transcendent planets are very much connected to the 5 bases. So we can see the moon as a base 2, as the base of the mind, I remember. We see Uranus as the base 4, the ego, I design. We see Mars as the base 5, in the middle, I think, the personality base. We see Saturn as the 3rd base, which is the body, and I am. And Pluto is the base 1, which is individuality, I define. So this can be a nice exercise for you. The keywords that you see on the screen, check your planets. Just check your transcendent planets, and try to connect these keywords to your gates, to your lines, to your colors, however deep you feel comfortable to go with it. But just starting off with the gate is good enough. So look at the keywords, like for example, the moon. Look at the keywords that are there: character, separation, nature, integration, spirit, and then find out the explanation. Just Google up the description of your gate or of your line and see how that makes sense together. Think of the words I remember. Think of this as the mind, the mind space, and just play with it. If you're receptive, it's just good enough for you to stare at these keywords, really. So yeah, I'm going to explain the resonance in a literal sense, but I also want to say that, yeah, mundane is what you don't want to resonate with, even if you do have direct resonance to it. But it's something that you don't want to be identified with. It's not about perfecting your Venus, for example. It's just about not having the standards. It's about bypassing having to have standards, having to have rules. It's just leaving it behind, like it stops being of importance in your life. There are people who have absolutely no resonance to any of the planets, and there's like 5% of them in the world, which is quite a lot. Like for them, for example, they need to have no connection to this. Nothing is based on what they're going through, just what they're seeing. So the easiest way to start off this process of seeing what you resonate to and what not to is just by looking at colors. So you will need to have an advanced chart for this, and I know that they do show you your colors in a Human Design app. The chart I have is from the MMI software. You're going to look at the colors. If you see the red circles, the colors of each of your planet and how that color resonates to the color of your mind, to the color of your sun and earth, and the color of your nodes. That is to motivation and to perspective. So motivation is about conceptualizing, is how we conceptualize. Is your conceptualizing in resonance with your standards? Is it in resonance with misinformation? Is it in resonance with your truth? You can also look at the transference in the same way. On personality side, at the harmonics, we will look in the same way we would look at transference. And then also there is dissonance, what we can't conceptualize, what we don't really see. And then with the nodes, it's the perspective, but it's also what we experience, how we experience. Are our standards rooted in the experience? Are they connected to what we experience and to what we see around us? Or are your standards directly just related to your the way you conceptualize, with bypassing the experience, not being rooted in the experience? So there's many different ways, many different combinations to look at this. Now the moon is going to be one of the most important things here. Moon is the focus of the foundation, and that focus leads to nodes. So through the moon, things come out and go into the nodes, right? And if perspective is correct, moon is the experience that you take in. If you look at the square here, moon can reach everything except for the Neptune and Jupiter. Neptune and Jupiter never make it into the focus unless they resonate, unless the color resonates. So they can totally bypass the moon if they resonate directly to your nodes or to your sun and earth, and they can have direct effect there. So check if your moon resonates to your nodes, if your Neptune resonates to your nodes, if your Jupiter does. There is a natural relationship between the moon and the nodes. So even if they don't resonate, but it's just that the information will go in a different way if they don't. But it is the nodes of the moon, so there is always that connection between them. So when it comes to Neptune and Jupiter, like every planet here is focused in getting things out through the moon onto the nodes, but these two don't need it. For many of us, we can look at a dominance in our charts. Are we more dominated by Jupiter or more dominated by Neptune? So I'll give you like a real stupid, mundane example of this, but what Jupiter does is both of these planets can cause a lot of mental problems, because Jupiter has its own kind of rules, right? And it's always aware, and it's looking at how the world is laid out. So the rule of your Jupiter can be, I am very spiritual. I don't trust the government. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust the TV. I don't trust what they put in my food. And that can lead you to be very paranoid, right? It can be just as COVID situation is a great example of this. On one side, you have people who are Jupiter dominated, who are like, I don't trust anything that is coming from the government. I don't want to do anything that I can't experience, right? That I can't directly experience or know everything about. So if I just have to trust them based on nothing, I'm not gonna do it. And they can get very, very paranoid. On the other hand, you have Neptune, which is led by misinformation. So these are the people that are just like, why are you not getting the vaccine? Like, why would you not trust? These are people who, on the other hand, can trust everything, anything that they hear on TV, anything that they read in the newspaper. So there's like, they are the two sides, they are the two extremes, right? We have a conspiracy theorist kind of in a Jupiter, and on the other hand, we have the one that just accepts everything as the truth, so misinformation. So for example, if you have one of these planets, one of these two planets, in direct resonance to your mind, to your Sun and Earth, then your mind is conceptualizing these rules or conceptualizing this misinformation without it being based on any real perspective, that is, on any real experience, if it doesn't resonate to the notes. But like, if I can say that one is a bit more positive than the other, then yeah, Jupiter would be a bit more positive, because Neptune, when you resonate to Neptune, you are resonating to things that are taking you in a totally different direction than what is meant for you, which is a wrong direction for you. So yeah, it can be very, very homogenizing. Now, on the other hand, it can be very good. It's something that makes you differentiated. So in one way, when you're not self, this is what homogenizes you. Moon especially, Moon gathers the information from all of these planets and delivers them to your perspective. And that is how easily it can homogenize you. But on the other hand, it can give you a very differentiated perspective. So somebody who's correct and has resonance to their Neptune, let's say, they can very easily be aware of when it happens. Somebody who is aware and has resonance to their Venus, they can just catch themselves and be like, look at me being so biased, having a standard here, having a rule, taking in all this misinformation. Like, I have resonance to my Mercury, for example, and I know that this is my weak spot. It can be my very strong spot, the way I communicate, but it can also be a great weakness, because my Mercury is in a gate 5 in an open sacral center. I don't know when enough is enough when it comes to communicating, and very often it happens to me. I just go on talking, and then I catch myself and I think, wow, why am I the only one here talking so much? And that is what awareness is about, just seeing yourself and stopping yourself and being like, no, this is not correct. Why am I doing this? It's not good for me. It's draining me. It's draining others around me. So yeah, nothing is good or bad, and everything can go in all directions. So that's that for now, guys. I hope that it was I hope that it was understandable. I really tried. I will come back with more. There will be video number 2.